My name's Michael Conroy, and I've got too much power. Before I explore that idea, I'd like to ask a question. I'd like to go out on a limb and say, if you don't mind, could you raise your hands if you believe love is important to every single human being? Okay, thanks. One more bit, and it's not a Mexican wave. Can you raise your hands if you think friendship is important to every single human being? Okay, I agree. I agree with that kind of response, which I think was pretty unanimous. Fine, let's park that. Let's keep that. Here I am. I'm middle-aged. I'm middle class. I'm able-bodied. And I'm white. A white man. And when I used to look in the mirror, I just see me. But now when I look in the mirror, I see the reality that all of those things actually give me some cultural status, cultural credit, you could say, something I can spend, which equate to power. And it's a power that I haven't built for myself. It's one I inherited. I didn't need to do anything at all to get it. It was just there when I was born. And it's a power that insulates me against lots of things. It insulates me against racism. It insulates me against sexism. It's a power that allows me and people who look like me to dominate commerce, politics, culture, journalism, all kinds of things for centuries. And that's an unwarranted power, and it's a distortion. The interesting thing, though, I mean, it doesn't make us invincible. We still get ill, you get depressed. I suffer from depression. We grieve, we have accidents, bad things happen, and when people say to people like me, middle-class white men, that we are somehow kind of responsible for certain things, we say, yeah, but look at my life, it's not perfect, I'm not happy. No, but we have to look at us all together and realise what we've got that perhaps we don't deserve. And we just need to be honest about it. I'm just going to have a bit of an adventure here. Right, okay. Speak truth to power. It's a great saying. What I really like about this is it separates the notions of truth and power because they're not the same thing. And it asks us to speak to people who may not want us to speak to them. Like the guy in the picture with his fingers in his ears. They have a vested interest in people being quiet and accepting the status quo. Now that might be in their interest, but it's not in the majority interest. Okay, I've figured it out now. Speak. Now, while those benefits and things that I've talked about, the cultural credit and the status exist, but don't make us invincible, what they do is they tend to push us towards the front of things. First in line, the most likely to, the most probable to receive certain things. It's like having a kind of phenomenal global pass, for the theme park where you just go straight through to the front. A kind of queue jumping ticket. So, speak truth to power. Now the tricky thing with this is power could be external, it could be a media mogul, it could be the Prime Minister, it could be a mayor, it could be a gang boss, it could be a sibling, it could be anybody in your network who exerts power over you. But also what we have to think about is power that we have ourselves. And we have to be aware of the power we have and how sometimes that can ripple out badly to people in our sphere. I'm just going to start with a few examples, but first off, can I say that I would say in this room there are a couple of hundred cultural detectives, people who figure things out, question askers, researchers, and change makers. Would you agree with that? Yeah? With a bit of conviction, would you agree that you fit one of those categories? Yes. Brilliant. Now then, who's heard of that phrase? Yeah. Okay. Boys will be boys. Brilliant. Brilliant. I'm pleased. I'm already there. That's great. It's an excuse. Genius. Power and excuses are often found very, very closely together. We need to be aware of that, bear that in mind. Boys will be boys. That spans lives from minor scrapes in the playground to adolescent misdemeanors to perhaps sometimes much more serious things as adults. It's a kind of mindset, and it's a ready-made excuse that lives out there in culture and can be called upon in hours of need, and it can all be part of a world of excuses. And that's something, is it really in our interest long term? I would say that boys will be boys limits our humanity by limiting my accountability. And that the greater the accountability we have, the more fully we can be human. I don't want to live in a society that excuses my behaviour or my sons or my nephews because we are boys or men. I'm a dad. I think I've just probably let the cat out of the bag with that. I've got a boy and a girl, and I've got 5 nephews. Sometimes, and it's not easy, it's a tough job, it's not glamorous, it's not fun. It is fun, sorry. Edit that. No, it is fun. It's always fun. It's definitely not glamorous, so. How could I say that in public? Oh my God. Yeah. But sometimes we get a lot of credit. We get a lot of praise as men for doing the basics. Just for being there. Just for cooking the odd meal. Just for sweeping up now and then. Does that ring a bell with anybody? I don't know if anybody... Yeah, okay. I'm not opening any cans of worms here. I've been given praise for doing stuff that I would consider the absolute basics. And that isn't okay. Right, okay. Dads cannot babysit for their own kids. Fact. I've never been told to smile by strangers in public. I've never had comments made to me about my legs or my hair or my hips or my backside or anything. Never. And I'm nearly 50. What happens here? A great group, Hollaback, have a look at them. Hollaback. Hollaback, they did research with 17,000 women in 22 countries, 50% of whom had been fondled or groped before the age of 17, I believe. Staggering. Now that's about us as men dominating space and feeling entitled to dominate space. Is it really public space if we dominate it? That's an interesting question. I'm asking loads of questions and I'm giving no answers. I just think, take away the questions. Reality is pretty stark at times. If somebody asks me for a date and I say no, I would not expect in my wildest dreams to be kind of subject to violence or harassment as a result of that. But that, unfortunately, is not the case for some women, for quite a few women. And we need to ask ourselves why that is. What is that sense of entitlement and where does it come from? Okay. Part of this hugely complex parcel is double standards and hypocrisy. He's a player. She's a... The language is entirely different. And there are many, many, many more ways to describe sexually active and sexually autonomous women than there are for men. And they tend to be denigratory. Whereas for men, they tend to be praise. We need to look at that because that is broken. A few pictures of power before I swiftly move on. This is what power looks like, generally speaking, on a global level. I was a meeting for women's rights in Saudi Arabia. Birthday cards. I think I'll be one more minute. Birthday cards. Okay, as a dad, you tend to, or an auntie or an uncle or whatever, or a cousin, you buy lots of birthday cards for your kids and for their friends. Now, I did some research, birthday cards and T-shirts and hoodies and all kinds of stuff. I did some research. I'll click through it. I don't want to rush entirely, but I won't be more than a minute because I don't want to be late for the others. If you go out, check out birthday cards, check out the messages on them, because hidden in there is all kinds of wrong, I would say very simply. I checked out one major UK retailer, and I looked in the cards for him section. There were 0 cards, 0, which mentioned friendship, which we all agreed was vital for human happiness. 0, nil. In the cards for her section, there were multiple. Special friend, friends like you are rare and few, I love you, thank you for being my friend, all kinds of stuff. So we've got a taboo on male friendship openly expressed. And we have an overemphasis on women's emotional labour. It's permission, but it's almost an instruction. You do the emotional work. Don't use those words near me. Now, the word love, the most important word in the world probably, I think, on a par with oxygen and water. Apart from the ghastliness of that, but that's real, that's on sale. Those things are on sale, they're real. I'll finish on this one. I did some more research on clothing messages for boys and girls, aged, I think it was 18 months to 12 years. The boys were captains, champions, winners, and adventurers, and they did stuff, and they found stuff, and they won stuff, and the girls shone and sparkled and smiled. In fact, lots of the girls meowed like kittens. It seems that they were kitten people who wanted a pony and who loved their friends. There were none, this is one major retailer of clothing, there were no messages at all about emotion for the boys. They don't exist. Check it out. Please find exceptions, that's great, that's a sign of hope. The problem is that hidden in plain sight in our daily life, in our shops, in our supermarkets, online, is an incredible amount of work to categorize boys, to believe that it's okay to be one way, and similarly, to instruct girls how to perform, and it's often for the pleasure of boys, visually. That doesn't seem to work. I don't think that's in anybody's interests. So I'd just like to leave you with those thoughts, and thank you very much for being here.